Okay, now I'm doing the live stream check on the audio. I believe we have audio going out. Hopefully not with echo today. Okay, this is the start of the 8th Kesh Health Teaching Workshop. Live stream. Just a minute. I've got an issue here with my other computer. Let me. Okay, I'm going to give that to you again. This is the 8th Kesh Health Teaching Workshop, and today we'll be meeting with Mr. Mayran Kesh of the Kesh Foundation at the Spaceship Institute, and with Dr. Elia Kostova, who will begin the first part of the workshop. And part one will be called The Structure of Bone Marrow. And Elia will guide us through the structure of the bone marrow with various pictures and descriptions. And then that'll be followed by Mr. Kesh, who will describe the relationship between the functions of the bone and the bone marrow and the heart. And in part 3, there'll be questions answered and so on. Okay, so let me carry on here and do the opening pictures. There you see the 8th workshop. Okay, so let's go over to Dr. Elia Kostova, and she can introduce the structure of the bone marrow. Elia, are you there?
Yeah, hello everybody. It's nice to be with you in the 8th workshop of the Health Teaching of Keshe Foundation. And the beginning, I just want to start with one introduction of my speaking, that I want to thank you for everyone which was supporting me to organize the health section of the Keshe Foundation. First, I want to thank to Mr. Kesh, like establishment person of the Keshe Foundation and all the departments of the Keshe Foundation. Then I want to thank with all the technical support guys, Rick, Vince, Amarok, and other guys around the world who did a lot of work to support me to organize all the documents, all the videos, and all the beautiful representations what you hear every Friday about the health department and about the knowledge what Mr. Cage wants to give us like a gift and like a gift not only for the scientific population of the world, but for all humanity. So thank you very much. And I'm so grateful to be with you all around the world, and really wish, it is my big wish and hope, to work together and to arise the knowledge in the planet Earth. Thank you very much. So I follow with my speaking about the structure of the bone. Yeah, thank you, sir. I follow with the lecture about the structure of bone marrow and relationship of the function of bone marrow, and what is the relation with heart. The first of all, we have to know that our bone marrow situated in the middle of our long bones. If you remember for the first workshop, what is the structure of the bone? We have a spongy part and we have a compact part. Inside of the spongy part, we have in our adult age the red bone marrow. And inside of the compact part, we have mostly yellow bone marrow. the structure of the spongy part, if you remember, is like net of little tubercular net. Inside of that net, they form cavities, and inside of that cavities is situated the red bone marrow. You are able to see on the left side of the picture. This is the bone. On the beginning, spongy part, and then compacted part in the longitudinous of the bone. Inside we have a vessels, artery and vein, and nerves. And in the middle of the small cavities situated the bone marrow. So on your right side you see again the structure of the bone, how the bone have spongy part, cavity, and inside of that cavity, this is the bone marrow. Okay, then we go to the next picture. So the bone marrow is so flexible tissue inside of our bones. We have red and yellow bone marrow. The red one in that picture is visible for you, that is in periphery, and the yellow bone marrow is inside, like a nucleus. Bone marrow produces approximately 500 billion blood cells every day. Every day you have new 500 billion blood cells. That blood cells, they support your circulation and your lymphatic system. What mean the bone marrow related with circulation and with your immune system. When we born, from the beginning, we have only red bone marrow, and then during our maturity, we start to transform the red bone marrow to the yellow one. So the adult person have mostly yellow bone marrow, and only in spongy part of the bones still exists the red bone marrow. Okay, then I want to show you the next one picture. This is the embryology of the bone marrow. So first, hemopoiesis is formed during the walk sac of our embryology state. This is the 3rd week of our development. Sorry. And then, when we reach the 6th week, we start to produce the blood cells also inside of liver and spleen up to the 7th month. And then we have producing of the blood cells in liver, spleen, and bone marrow. On that stage, we already have a red bone marrow and yellow one bone marrow. So in red bone marrow, we produce a blood cells. In yellow, we produce a fat cells. If you remember of the previous talk of Mr. Cash, how he explained the meaning of the fat cells and how the fat cells related with emotional part of brain. Just keep that in mind. Okay, then we go to the next slide. Next slide give you how start the hemopoiesis. Hemopoiesis start with one main stem cell. That main stem cell we call pluripotential. It's because have a lot of functions inside of that stem cells. That is the mother cells. We start from one, then that one divert to the two main cells. These two main cells is for myeloid order and for lymphoid order. From myeloid order we get all the cells what we call erythrocytes and granulocytes, and from lymphoid order we get all the lymphocytes. Actually, the bone marrow produce erythrocytes, granulocytes, monocytes, platelets, and B lymphocytes. Supply stem cells for lymphocyte production in thymus and spleen and store iron. In bone marrow, we get only B lymphocytes. Thymus convert the main stem cells to the T lymphocytes. So again, in function of the circulation, we see that the thymus is converter of the function of the cells. Is the same how we spoke in the previous workshop that thymus is the conversion of the plasma packages. In nature, you see again the same function of the thymus. So, I just want to remember you again. Bone marrow produce the cells, supply stem cells to the lymph nodes and thymus and convert to the mature T lymphocytes and store iron. Thymus is the central lymphoid organ where bone marrow derived precursor cells differentiate into immunologically completed T lymphocytes. I repeat again, thymus have conversion function. Lymph nodes produce lymphocytes and plasma cells. Also produce mature antibodies. Spleen produce lymphocytes and plasma cells, synthesize antibodies. In spleen, we have metabolic state of erythrocytes and thrombocytes. It means these two types of cells, they convert and store in sinuses in spleen. So spleen is like depot state for erythrocytes and also the dead place for them. And also other function of the spleen is to store iron. Just put in your mind what is the place where we store iron. So first one is bone marrow, second spleen. Okay. Liver store vitamin B12, folic acid and iron. if you remember from talk of Mr. Cash, what is the main component of B12? This is the cobalt. And this is the third part where we store iron. Also, liver produce coagulation factor, albumin, and globulins. They are components of our plasma. This is the serum of our blood. Then, in liver, we get erythropoietin factor. This is the growth factor of erythrocytes. And liver have a system of support of coagulation of our blood. Stomach in intestines, they are also involved of hemopoiesis like a support place. They produce important intrinsic factor, and that intrinsic factor support absorption of B12. It's mean of cobalt. Absorption of the B12 and folic acid happen also through intestines. Now you stay on that picture. I just speak to explain some summary of the place where we store the iron and some important point. It is not on the picture, and this is really so medical part, but give you relation between the plasma, what Mr. Kesh said, and our organization of our system. I will be so short. I will be not keep you busy with so medical explanations.
No, I was just wondering. Thank you. That's perfect.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay, kidney, they are also involved in hemopoiesis like support place, and they produce the growing factor of the bone marrow, especially of erythrocytes order and thrombocytes order. Also, in the kidney, we have regulation of degree of hemoglobin and of transformation of the hemoglobin to different kind of pigments. Also, we have mononuclear system. We call that reticuloendothelium system. This is so huge one supportive system of our body for our immunity. That is major phagocyte system of the body for cellular defense against microbial infection, and in that system various blood cells get destroyed. Okay, if we go and see the slide, you see how from the main stem cells, what I explained it to you, divert to the one, that one progenitor main cells have only one nucleus inside and periphery of cytoplasm. If you remember what Mr. Cash explained, how it's made it, the picture of reactor, we have inside water and outside the gas of CO2. So we have a nucleus with one gas state, and the periphery is gas with from other state. Then that cells divert to the main orders, lymphoid and myeloid order. And then we get the differentiation of myeloid order to neutrophils, basophils, monocytes, platelets, and red cells. From lymphoid order, we get the B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. But T lymphocytes, we are in our body, they originate from thymus and lymph nodes. Okay, then we go to the next slide. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I believe you're coming through fine.
Okay. Next slide is more schematic, just to see what is the consequence in origin of the different state of the cells inside of the bone marrow. So from one main mother stem cells, we have division. Then we have multiplication in order. So we get different orders. How I told you, two main from lymphocytes and myelocytes. And then we have differentiation between the cells, what they're supposed to do. Then they grow and reach the state of maturity. When they reach the state of maturity, then they go to the blood and starts to fulfill their functions. After they finish their function, they go to the death stage. Actually, our blood is completely new every 120 days. We have completely new blood with all cell elements inside and components of our serum, what in medical language we call plasma. The next slide give you what is the component of our blood. So when the cells in bone marrow reach the maturity, they go and form the blood. They start to be part of our circulation. The cells inside of our blood, they are red blood cells, platelets, monocytes, lymphocytes, eosinophils, basophils, and neutrophils. All of them, they have completely different function. In the right side of the slide, you see the components of the blood. We have 55% plasma, serum, 41 cells, what is the red blood cells, and only 4% white blood cells and platelet cells. So what does mean? The main function of our blood is to cleaning the system, because the white blood cells, they are component mostly of our lymph, and here they are presented only in 4%. So the base liquid state is 55, and the red blood cells, they're only 41, and the white is 4. Then we go to the next slide. Next slide give you shape of the red blood cells. Red blood cells is so important to get relation between the bone marrow and heart. And how you see the red blood cells, they have so specific shape, and in the middle they have concavity. Inside of that center of the red blood cells is situated hemoglobin. Hemoglobin have 4 branches with different functions and components, but main part of all the hemoglobin is element iron. It is inside of hemoglobin. This is the main structure around each four part of the hemoglobin, just organized in space. If you compare with chlorophyll in plants, the structure is the same, just the main element inside is magnesium. And actually, when we take chlorophyll from plants, like supplement, magnesium have ability to transform to iron, and actually we get from the plant's blood. In the right side of the slide, you see how you are able to make 3D model of erythrocyte and looks like a spaceship. And it's important is that central concavity of that cell. And the next slide, you see what is the function. So the function of hemoglobin is to take oxygen from pulmonary alveoli through circulatory system to give it to the body tissue. So erythrocyte just transport oxygen and CO2 between lungs, heart, like a common system supporting the gas transmission in our body, through the circulatory system, and reach different tissues in our body. Then we go to the next slide. In that slide, I just wanted to show you, if you cut the red blood cells, erythrocytes in the middle, you see that specific shape. Inside of the erythrocyte, you have measurement like X, Y, X, and Z, so similar from the star formation. And if you compare with the position of our lung in the chest area, it is like left part is like a left lung and the right part is like a right lung. And we have space in the middle where actually in chest area is place of our heart. And here in the erythrocyte is place of hemoglobin, and in the middle of hemoglobin, iron. And the right side you see the lymphocytes. So the lymphocytes, they have specific shape. The white one is a lymphocyte. If you compare with the shape of the trachea in two main bronchi, this is the same. So lung is like a shape of erythrocyte, and the lymphocytes, they are on the shape like trachea and two main bronchi, and actually in the middle of the trachea is the place of our thymus. I just wanted to make a point that even in circulatory system we have the same elements. One is the part which support our physical part of our brain, and other one like a lymphocyte which is supporting with our emotional part of the brain. They exist even in the same shape. Okay, so you may see how nature represent different models, and one thing in all organization of our tissue, of our blood, even of each cell, even of the shape of the each cell. So it means that kind of shapes, they are so important in organization in space. And it means they have really functional explanation, especially regarding the plasma technology, why is really nature organized the things in that shape. And how at the moment Rick show you slide of the bone marrow, you see the same. We have yellow bone marrow in the middle. Is his emotional part, and the red marrow bone on the periphery. So this is our physical part. So again, emotional part, support, and physical part, support existence of emotional part. And that, for me, is relation between the bone marrow and heart. And I will be so happy to hear the explanation of Mr. Cash. What is the big view of that relation between the heart and the bone marrow? Thank you from my side.
There is one question, Elia.
Yes.
So can you speak about the GAN's toxicity?
The GAN's what?
Toxicity?
Toxicity. I just cannot hear you clearly, Vince.
Yes, toxicity. Yeah, the is the GAN's toxic, or the there was a question about that.
Is it the GAN's to eat, or what do you mean?
Can someone help me clarify?
I just ask if the GAN's.
There was a
Is
question, Elia, from someone who asks about the GAN's toxicity, which is the poisonousness, whether GAN's is poisonous, and whether there's any special precautions and so on for different types of GAN's. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to address that or not, but there you go. That's the question.
Yeah,
Do you
okay.
understand? Do you understand?
Yeah. I understand, and also I hear the answer of that question in the previous workshop where someone asked about the GAN state of food, and then the Mr. Cash said, so one food is okay for me in GAN state, but the same will be poison for you. So it's regarding of the state of being, and probably have to have to make some kind of manual how you are able to use the guns like a food, or just to prepare some kind of technology what you want to do. But for me, it's everything is individual, and exactly in the nature we are speaking in chemistry, especially that is not poison. It is existing of a dose. So each element for some in some dose is able to be a poison, and also is able to be a healing part. You understand?
It might have to be in a homeopathic dose to be proper, and it might be poisonous in any kind of dose that you can see, perhaps.
No, homeopathy just carry information. It's not carry any substance.
That's what I mean. Maybe you could carry the information of the GANs rather than the GANs itself into the body.
Yeah, because up to the moment I don't hear someone of followers of the Keshe Foundation to be able to measure the GAN state of his body. So how you know which one GANs you need to eat?
Yes, and I think generally speaking, you would have to recommend that people don't just try the GANs as an experiment, because it could very well be toxic and could hurt you or kill you, I suppose.
Yeah, and also up to the moment, like technicians guys know, I collect the data from all the technicians guys, what are them experience during the working with the guns. So when we are ready with all the documents and data, so then the Keshe Foundation will be able to make some kind of analysis manuals and to represent to the public. So after the moment, please, no one just try to use it because he feels that is the right way.
Right, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, should we move along to Mr. Kesh now, or do you want to answer more questions, Elia?
It's no problem for me. If you have a question about the anatomically part, it's okay.
I'm not sure if there are any more questions. Are there any more from your end there, Vince, or anyone else on the topic?
I don't see
today?
anything on the live stream.
Okay, well, we can carry on to Mr. Kesh and have him deliver the second part of the workshop with the relationship between the functions of the bone marrow and the heart.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Elia.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, if you can hear me. Are we live? Yes, okay. I have to apologize, I fell asleep through half of the session. Marco and Arman are laughing. I've got to explain to you what has happened, why I fell asleep. As you know, I've been heavily poisoned, and we realized with Caroline how I get peak of pain during, on Wednesdays, usually in the evening, in the past few weeks, Thursdays and Fridays, because Caroline was in the teaching room last night and she had the second poisoning. And I could not sleep last night because of the pain. And I spent most of the night awake. But what hasn't we realized, we think, is that they've been poisoning the paper which I write on. As I was teaching last night, yesterday and Wednesday, I must have been touching these poison papers. And as I work, I swallow poison. That's how they've been poisoning me. So the enemy of the foundation sits within the foundation, and we know where the paper's been sitting. So I do apologize, Elia, but in a way I know, I understand what you've been trying to teach. But as I've been touching papers and touching my hand and my mouth, whatever, I've been swallowing poison. So we have removed the papers, and the ones who've done it, they will not come back to the foundation. The door of the foundation is closed. They know who they are. Because if the students remembered, and my son was here 3 Wednesdays ago, and he was playing, and he was poisoned too. So the poison, now we found the source of it, where it is. The papers, I've heard him, Karen was telling me that's how they poisoned most of the monks and the kings. While they were reading the papers, they poisoned the paper as they flickered it. So the guy who's done it knows who it is. Please do not come back to the foundation. I'll ask for a warrant to be issued, because now we know what it is. Now, we go back to where we are. One good news or one bad news for some people, for the Bulgarians, and good news for the foundation is this is the last time, hopefully, we hear Elia from Bulgaria, as she's been joining the foundation from next Wednesday. We welcome you to the foundation as a teacher, as a master, in the way you do, and you've done your work. On the other hand, one of the things, as you know, I do not work and do not assess how things are done, and the way the plasma technology works around the body in an orderly manner, is that the color of materials in the body shows the strength of their work and what they are supposed to do and how they do things. The bone stays red, and then when it goes to yellow, and in some cases and in positions we find darker colors of it, darker different colors of yellow and a brighter color of yellow. One of the first things that, as was mentioned earlier, is that we produce 500 billion blood cells a day. If the production of red blood cells was random, then why do we produce so much random blood cells? And then why do we produce B cells and then conversion of them to T cells and the rest? Why bone marrow could not be producing one thing at a time or one entity and then just feed it through and then they convert as they come to the body? The red blood cells, so many billions of them are produced. They all have predestined information taxi destination, as I always say. So they're not all the same. You have so many different cells across the body of the man that they have continuously needed to be supplied on a continuous basis, and this is why you need so many red blood cells. You cannot deliver energy, let's say, to the nail of the toe or just the nerve under it where the nail is produced and come back next week and feed it again. So every single blood cell which is produced, even though it looks the same, but it's got its destination written on it. Where it's going to go, what it's going to do, how much energy it's going to carry. In conjunction with the blood, then, as it was explained, how the bone marrow goes to the T cells to become B cells, goes to thymus. Red blood cells move into the bloodstream. As we said before, the energy of the red blood cells in conjunction with the nerve system decides what the material is going to be. When the red blood cells arrive at the heart, the other part of the information arrives through thymus. Look at the position of the thymus, look at the position of the heart. As I said, 20% of the information is neuro, 80% is through gravitational magnetic field. The car arrives, and at the point of the thymus, the destination and the number of passengers are decided according to the magnetic field which is come. Don't forget that the immune system which is coming from the bone marrow to thymus is coming from the same place where the red blood cell came. So they are in tuned. They are of the same gravitational magnetic field, the strength, common denominator. So the immune system in thymus, when the blood arrives to the heart, it gets its passengers and destination coded in. The other part with the immune system is when the immune system or the cells for the immune system are released, when they reach the point, if it does not match in what the code was given, then there is a problem. Then there is an infection. Then there is a need for density change. In a way, the immune system which runs around the lymph system and within the body of the man has to match when the passenger arrives at the destination. And then it decides what has to be delivered. Interesting, even though we look at the bone marrow and we look at the bone itself as a white stuff, look at the color of the bone, look at the color of the brain of the man. Not very far off, but the same colors, near enough. Because the bone itself as a structure is controlled and the stated is a state of and what colors and shapes is going to be and what cavity is going to produce by the brain itself. So now you can bring whole integrated system together. Brain decides the cavities, the nano layers within the bone for what it needs for the support of the red blood cell. It produces the red blood cell and then it controls it that it goes to the right place. Not for the cell, but for its neurosystem. So the circuit is completed in one direction. The brain decides the structure of the bone. Then it decides what it manufactures inside the bone for its survival, which is the lung and transfer of energy from the lung to the brain through the operation of the heart. And at the same time decides in how I'm going to feed the neural system directly myself in a way that I'm aware of what the guy is doing in the physical part, that I don't leave everything in his hand. So, in the plasma science, in the world of plasma, we have seen we do not work through electron and electrical and mechanical system. Electrical information transfer, even through neural system, belongs to the physical part, not to the neural system control and for emotion to be in charge of what the guys are doing. In a way, the brain has a spy within the system to keep an eye what the physical guy is doing. It doesn't put me in danger. If this is a bit to understand in more depth, if you go back to the workshop of yesterday, I explained to you that the detector had a cap on it and it was positioned in a direction that when the field come in a certain direction, certain strength, they hit the cap, they change the energy and we detect it as a noise. This is the same principle. This is the same process. This is why I discussed the detector yesterday for today for you to understand, because you understand the practical part of the reactor, now you can understand the work of it in the body of the man. So when the brain sends information, at the point where the blood cells and the nerve system, in plasmatic magnetic field strength are in a given angle, it changes to the noise. That noise in a way changes to the matter. And now for the first time you can understand how every part of your body is decided by the brain and the production of the bone marrow. The information,
We're ready
taxi
to begin
destination
the
comes through the blood. Brain gets the information, decoded it, put the information back what it needs to do, and sends it like a radio, beacon. At the same time, when the information through the beacon comes, at a point wherever it needs to be, the information in the blood, in conjunction with the information with the neurosystem, converts into the matter at the point of the change of the strength which is being put through by the physical part or the emotional part of the brain. This is the conversion of the plasma into matter. In the lab we see it, conversion of the plasma into noise. In here we see it in this level. This is very interesting if you want to understand it more. As a lot of you have been listening to the broadcast live stream in the lab, us as knowledge seekers spend a lot of time in the lab. We've been there for nearly 6 months. Sometimes we hear when the pump goes. But a lot of you have been registering on the SSI workshop lab. I hear the bang, another bang. This is the same process as your working of your body. What happens is that the reactors create gravitational magnetical field. And when the gravitational magnetical field come in touch with each other, and because it's rapid growing and contraction, you hear the slapping, or what you hear as a bang. Now you can understand the banging which was going on in the lab for past few nights or past few weeks. As you know, the lab has been opened before, we never heard the bangs. The banging system has come since we start running the GANS matters, because it's a GANS same as the brain, and it releases magnetic gravitational field in the same strength matter. And then when it interacts with the magnetic gravitational field of the reactors themselves, this is the time you hear a bang, and you usually hear double bang or triple bang. Because the plasma hits the three at the bottom at the same time, the free plasma and the plasma on the top, because they are near enough the same strength. So energy of the gravitational magnetic field converts into a noise, or you convert it into a matter if you know how to do it. And this is how matter energy converts back to matter in every single part of the body of the man. The information according to the emotional part and the physical part are released. And then where they match with the blood carrying information for the neurosystem and the information which is on the matter strength length in the nerve system, tells what material is needed in this position. And then you have the skin which transfers that information into the right material. It's like a filtering. So now you see how the operation of the brain, the bone, the red blood cells, the defense technology which is there, and at the same time the blood circulation come together to work. This is what I've been saying for a long time. 20% of the information is carried in the neurosystem. That 20% is information for the nerve in a channel which goes down for the conversion of the material in the position where it's supposed to be done and how it's done. These are the bangs. But in fact you don't hear all the bangs in your body because it's done in a smooth way and it's just done as a normal way. It's a noise which we become used to we don't hear it. So the ear has, in a way, has blocked it. It's a noise that we are used to, is not considered a noise. So in your body is a continuous, a lot of bangs going on every minute, billions of them as the cells convert. From plasmatic condition in the blood, in conjunction with the lymph, in conjunction with the neurosystem. What is coming with the lymph is converting into the matter. So the tuning part is literally arrives with the presence of the lymph. And in so many ways, the lymphs are themselves as part of the process of production of the red blood cells and immune system, the bone marrow. Don't forget two main factors. If you go back to when we talked about the bone and the bone marrow, all the immune systems, all the lymphocytes, anything which comes out of the bone marrow carries a calcium, sorry. Because it's washed in. Then that information which is carried as a calcium plays an important part in production of the tissue muscles. Because what has happened, or what happens, is that if another part of the body mistakes or make a change in the phosphor which is in the bone marrow which comes up, then you'll find the deposition of the calcium within the fibers of the tissue of the body of the man in the muscles. This is a very complicated situation. When we come to the parathyroid glands and glands, as I've spoken before, I explain more. But now you see, in reality, the body, the brain, the emotional part can live in a very simple way with the operation of the heart and the bone. The rest is conversion. How what you eat as matter with the energy which goes to the limbs converts and releases energy for what the brain, the heart, the neurosystem and the bone have decided to produce. At the same time, because it's the brain which produces the structure, controls the structure of the bone, it keeps it as a memory and it puts it in your DNA, what you call your DNA. Your DNA is produced in your bone marrow. The coding, the physical part of it is done in the bone marrow, and then at the same time the information is received to put it in a structure by the emotional part and the physical part of the brain. Then now you understand how, in a very simple way, you can follow somebody's DNA and say if one matches or not. Or one is from the same mother, or there is a connection, or we can use the bone marrow or not. Because in fact, the bone marrow, when you use in the bone marrow transplant, is partially change and definition of the DNA. If the information on RNA is similar, the physical part matches, because physical part follows the master, which is the emotional part which sits in the RNA. In the future, as we go deeper, I'll explain to you that at the moment, the doctors will have a major breakthrough in their hand if they understand they don't need to look for bone marrow everywhere to find one. If husband and wife are emotionally close, very close as one, even they come from different part of the world, the bone marrow will match. They can receive organs from each other. So in the future, scientists and the medical people, if you can make one to be close, not to be in love, understand emotionally close, what you call bone marrow. Because again, the human beings are looking for the physical part. They don't understand the physical part is controlled through the emotional part. And when the RNA repositions itself in the right way, if you can do it, then you find out you have the same as a certain blood types that you can give to anyone. You can do the same with stem cells. You can do the same with the bone marrow. So there is no need for a loss of life just because they cannot find matching organ. The organs of anybody will match if you can match the RNA part or allow the RNA part to adjust itself that it connects the DNA, and then any blood cell matches. Any organ will match. So it's not just running and looking at the bone and the heart. It's understanding, as I explained in the part with the heart, why the heart has 4 chambers. One chamber is responsible for circulation of the blood to go out, one to bring it back, one is for the limbs, and one is for the immune system. And if in any part, any of these don't function properly, then you see the diseases. If the doctors start looking people with a cancer into the rhythm of their hearts and the valves and the heart's operation, and even condition of the heart in respect to thymus, then you find out cancers become a memory of the past. It needs a deep understanding. It needs to understand the operation, why is bone, because we always look at the bone as a piece which, that's it, is left over at the end. But in fact, the bone is beginning of the life, the structure, the operation, and the control of the whole human race, human body, or any animal on this planet. A bone is as important as the brain itself because it's part of the brain, is planned, designed, executed by the brain, emotional, in conjunction with the physical part. If the physicians understand, then they come to one point, that there is no need for a physical part to feed. I explained this yesterday to the knowledge seekers. If you understood that no food crosses, no element crosses your lung and no element crosses your intestine, I can give you the energy and change the plasmatic. When we talk about energy, we're talking gravitational magnetic field. I can give you a gravitational magnetic plasma, twist it slightly in a different orientation or a speed or the strength. Would you like to feel as you're having a banana? Even taste and smell the banana. But in fact, there is no need for the mouth to open to digest the food. This is one of the points when years ago we put on the Keshe Foundation SSI that we will not be carrying any food into space. Because if at that time we would have explained this, people would have laughed their head off. But now that you've developed the knowledge and you understand more and more, and you've seen the work of the GANs and the plasma, which is a free plasma, then you understand how easy this shall be. Then raises one big question mark. Is there a need for physical part now that you can feed that way? Then that goes into the ethics. The man has to decide. Would you like to carry this feeble body into space, which is conditioned to positions? Or would you like to carry a part which can adapt itself according to the environment it lands in and likes to live in? Don't forget the condition of the shoe crab. So, in so many ways, when you look at the operation of a heart, its position in respect to lung, its position in respect to thymus, should have given you a very good indication that the bone is part of the brain structure. And is part of the emotional part of the brain, because it decides, I have to be in charge, and the only thing is I need food, and now I've given the instruction to the body. When I finish, the body can do what it likes, but I support it. Because red blood cells go deliver their energy mainly in the operation just for the nerve system and for the brain. So, in a very simple way, again, we open another door in the world of science. And the ones who understand, listen to these tapes in the future, these talks, then they understand the depth of what I've just explained. We have just touched the surface of the knowledge. If you look at the structure, for example, of the bone, and if the doctors by habit take a scan of a bone at the time of birth, or a scan of the cavities of the nanolayers and literally detail map it, they'll find out that how different diseases come by change of the structure in the nanolayers or the layers internally in the bone. And if you can restructure it, you can produce the same material all the time. So, in a long term, man should never die in the physical matter as we've seen it. Most of the diseases will be eradicated because you can change, or you can allow the bone to be reset or reproduce it in conjunction, or allow a change in the environment of the blood cell when it comes out to be at its constant condition. So a man can live for thousands of years because you adjust everything through the upper structure, as Elia keeps on talking about the spongy. The life of the man depends on the spongy part. The spongy part is the cavities of different magnetic gravitational field strength, which decides what is filtered and what energy will be carried by the red blood cells and by the lymph and by everything else. Because, do not forget, The limbs themselves have their origin sitting in the bone. Next time, when you're sitting on a table and you finish with a cooked bone of a chicken or a lamb, look into the structure, and then you understand the mystery of the creation. What you dismissed as a piece of bone and few holes in it, that's the essence, control, mechanism of the creation, life of the man on this planet or anywhere else. You've seen it. If you squeeze your nano layer, it releases energy. Now, this spongy, it keeps on getting the heartbeat, it keeps on getting contracted and expanded, so it's releasing its energy, and that energy decides how much goes into what when it leaves the bone and what it becomes. The spongy part of the bone is the fundamental connection control system of the whole human life. And is so easily dismissed because just look at this, just some pieces of bone happen to be there. Every shape, every size, every dimension is controlled, planned, designed, executed by the brain itself. Nothing is coincidental. Otherwise, why don't you have 4 horns and 20 legs? It's accidental, it can happen. Even if you look at one end of the bone, a spongy part, and the other, you will understand different materials are needed in different parts. So all cannot be done in one place. Then you understand why your ribs have a spongy strength structure. These bones on your ribs act and behave very much like the detector which we had in the lab. They show the limitation of the magnetic gravitational field which comes from the physical and emotional part of the brain, what it has to be done in that cavity. Why do you have a bigger bones on the top and a very smaller as you go down? And it doesn't stop, it carries on all the way over your stomach. Partially it's for protection, but in reality the backbone can hold. Because all these bones, the shape, the color, the material they put in their environment, and the field which they absorb coming in the magnetic gravitational field from the physical and emotional part, decides a lot of things. A lot of people look, for example, in the prostate cancer or in the womb cancer into what happened. But look why prostate cancer always goes directly into the hip. Because part of the information received by the bone for the conversion and operation of the prostate is misplaced through the emotion. It's not the way all as has been taught. It's most of the time is the other way around. You change through emotion the field which you send, and you have a satellite dish called your hip bone. It's emotion. So it creates a different environment in that core, in that center, and affects that emotion, affects continuously the prostate or the womb or the ovaries. So the bone structure is not just for manufacture, at the same time the bone structure is for reflection of what is made itself to be back on it through the emotional part. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. Is there any questions from people in the Skype call? I'll have a look at the live stream.
Yeah, I have a question. What about the vertebrae bones in the back? What are those? What are they producing energy for the body?
What do you think is going through them?
Lymph.
What else?
I guess neural information.
I think you answered yourself.
Okay. I have one more question about telomeres. When the child's in the mother, it has a whole line of them, and then it drastically reduces after birth, and then it continuously reduces. Why does it reduce so much from inside the mother and directly after birth?
Repeat the question.
The telomeres, the lengths of them, they shorten as we get older. When the baby's inside the mother, they're really, really long, and then after the baby's born, the child loses a huge. They shorten drastically, and then they slowly shorten over the rest of your life. So why are they shortened so much from the birthing process?
This is the condition we have accepted to be in. That is an environmental condition because we adjust ourselves to. It's very much like, as I explained some time ago, why do we or did we have dinosaurs and we can't sustain dinosaur life? This atmosphere at the moment cannot support life of a dinosaur. It's the pressures and gravitational magnetic fields of the both earthly and outside which decide. Don't forget, we look at ourselves as we are, but we got to realize that the human body foresees what it needs to change into to fit into what it comes. Because it's not just that we are walking on this planet. Continuously our emotional and physical part is receiving information from this planet too. From its central core, as the gravitational magnetic field changes, strengthens, and from its environment outside it, from the environment of the plasma of the solar system. There are changes which explain to us there is a lot of changes in human race continuously. There is even, in the coming time I'll show you something in the human structure. Even in the human structure, if you look at some of the MRIs, you realize some of us as human being, or a structure of human being, we are getting ready to get rid of certain parts of our body as we know the time has come to leave this planet. I look at a lot of MRIs of the brain and the bones with different diseases, and I see it, it's very clear. So a lot of things will change and shorten is because of what the body is expecting to be. In a lot of structures, because I have so many data I look at, it shows that man is getting ready to live on the cave, become a caveman again. If the earth condition stays as it is. We were walking with Arvin a couple of days ago in the park. And there were, as you all know, there were a heap of soil near the footpath. And a few months ago, 2-3 months ago, the same heap were right on the top of the path, which is on top of the hill. I asked him, do you know what this is, what it is? We had one of the wettest environments in Italy this year. So the mole knew is going to get drowned. So he went right on top of the hill, on top of the ramp, to make sure if the water comes, I'll survive. Firstly, the moisture, they understand. Secondly, they be able to move. And now it's come to the bottom of the hill. It means it's going to be a very cold and dry winter. Because in this environment he can live. At the moment his internal system tells him he has to be at the bottom to have the soft ground to be able to dig to find the worms. Our body is the same. It receives the information from the earth and from its environment of what is there. And some of us will respond to it. Some of the bone structures are changing when you look at the MRIs. This is one of the things you got to understand. Life does not stay. Evolution didn't happen and you are here and it's going to change. We are still ourselves evolving into the environment which is getting ready, and our, in a way, brain plasmatic condition is absorbing what the changes are, so it's preparing us for the change. And secondly, for the changes which is forced on it, it has to accept. So, as you see the bone changing or extending, and some people becoming very tall and others short, or we find different conditions where we could not accept certain kind of food, now we can eat it, is all because we are part of the evolution. Evolution hasn't changed to come to us. And evolution comes according to what the environment dictates on the bone, and then it dictates on the brain, emotional and physical part. The whole human race, if you look, I can show it to you in MRI, is getting ready for a huge disaster. It's in the brain, you see it in the structure. The emotional part is packing in a different shape and formality. Very much like when you look at the MRI of a MS patient and a ALS patient and somebody who has a normal body but a cancer with different brain structure. The human body, our emotional part, is aware of what's happening above us, around us, and is getting ready for it. I look at something like maybe 200-300 MRIs a year from different diseases. And then you analyze it. I look at MRI from the bones. And then you start analyzing, you start seeing. If you look at the MRIs from 10 years ago, and look at the MRIs from now, some people bring it for you. Oh, I had some X-ray taken, or I have an MRI with me today. And then you look at the structure, you see the depression which is setting in. So our body will change for it.
Mr. Kesh, there is a question in the live stream that might be associated with this. There's a, let me just get it lined up again here. So is there a connection or similarity between the process of creation of cancer cells and the creation of black holes?
I don't think so. The cancer cells, maybe it sounds cancer to us, it means our body is not used to this conversion. If you understood the way I explained the matters are created, there is a difference between a cancer and a tumor. And I explained that before. A cancer and small cancers and cancer tumors which they grow afterwards. But you find people who have tumors and they get the radiotherapy, they get the chemotherapy, and then they remove the tumor, and then there is nothing else left, and they say you're perfect, there is no cancer anymore. These are done because of the changes within the body through the foreign parts, or changes by accident in one part. But cancer as a whole in the human race is a production of the material which the body is not used to how to handle. And then nobody dies of cancer. No one has ever died of cancer. You die because these, what you call cancer, because of their stronger field, absorb all the energy. So in fact, you die of lack of energy. Because whatever you use, whatever you eat, needs to feed these hungry beasts. And it goes back to a question which we had last week regarding can we do this and that, and I explained why and how it's done, and how cancer grows, and how cancer is fed. It's just our body is not there. If you can make a machine that can feed the cancers on their own, you'll find out you can live with the lumps and the cancers and the rest of the body the same. But because they are gravitationally, their gravitational field is stronger than magnetical field, so they absorb, they take all the energy which comes in. Then it comes the physical tiredness, exhaustion, nothing, having energy to do things, and then that leads to death. Because the cancer cell takes everything. Even when you take it out, because it has spread itself, there are now millions of them everywhere. So they all absorb all the energy which is supposed to go for other functions, be it through the lymph system, be it through the, what do you call it, plasmatic from the brain, or from the physical part of the brain, or emotional part. So they become a, what do you call it, a living, eating giant, but spread around many of them. Nobody ever dies of cancer. You die of the lack of energy which is not there to support it. And that's why you find the cancer lumps, you know, cancer pieces grow very rapidly, and you take it out from one place and they come out somewhere else, because now you took one out. But because it's spread now, the other one start eating, because now it's found it's no competition. Nothing to do with black holes. Black holes doesn't exist. The man who has talked about the black holes cannot speak to talk about how much rubbish it is. The darkness of material, it means the absorber, or the energy which we cannot see at our length, as our human race. Amino acid, gravitational magnetic field length. In fact, if you think about it, black should mean the essence of creation. That's where all the energy comes out of. Next question.
I have a question in the live stream here. Stanley asks, so man can expect to change on deep sea space travel? All Earth conditions cannot be set in a spaceship. Is that correct? Like you've talked about 1G gravitational field could be set.
Yes, but this is something we were talking with the knowledge seekers yesterday. In space, do you need 1G? And secondly, according to what you create in the central core, you can create different G's and different colors in different part of the spaceship. So, in so many ways, you can live a composite life according to what you need. And we get used to it very rapidly, very easily. So you don't need 1G to be 1G all the time, because we think the 1G is the only way we can live. But at the same time, your gravitational magnetic field, according to the strength they release, or due to the condition of running of the cores, you will find out there are different colors within the structure, and each one carries its own gravitational magnetic field strength.
that would go for the sun's rays as well. That was another part of the question.
In so many ways, yeah. That's why, as I said, we were talking about it yesterday, because I took the knowledge seekers to stand on the edge of the more or less what we call a small hill, and I said, if you look, it's the same sun. In the evening, you see it in the red color, and during the day is bright white light. And then if it's the other way around, in the mornings you wake up to, in the winter time, into the red color. And that's, as I explained to them in English, if you have English lessons, they know, they say red skies at night and red skies in the morning. If you have red skies at night, it means tomorrow is going to be a nice warm day. But if you have a red sky, it's the same sun, in the morning, it means it's going to be very freezing and cold.
Red sky at night, sailor's delight. Red sky in morning, sailor take warning.
Yeah, now you understand, it's the same sun. We all come from understanding of the same culture.
So we can also see, though, as the reactor systems in a spacecraft as being like our own confined solar system, and we can dictate what that solar system entails in terms of what we need, like our sun. So the question, it says, can we expect to change in deep space travel?
Of course.
Well, that's only if we want to change. That's the way I see it. Yeah, if we want.
Of course. There is a huge change. There's a huge change coming about the Keshe Foundation research. It's going to shock a lot of people. Armand and Marco have started working on it. I've asked them to keep silent till we decide we release it. There is going to be such a huge, shocking change that will answer this question to you very soon. It's strange that you people and the questions and the line of thinking is all flowing in the same direction. It's very much, I'll say, it's the lesbian relationship. You know what it is. You know, yeah, you laugh. You know this, I mean, a lot of women can tell you, a lot of men are shy away with it, but when you work in the medical health side like me and look at everything else, you know, the lesbians, when they are together for such a long, they have their monthly cycles at the same time. They tune into each other. And so Armand had a shock. I said to him yesterday, you know, men have a cycle too. What, men? Yes, I don't want. I said, you call it ovaries with a woman, you call it testicle in men. You think there is any difference with you and them? You still have the same monthly cycle. Because we adapt into it. Yeah? And you find out your monthly cycle becomes the same as your wife. But in America, there is only a few states in America, you can exclude yourself from sitting exams when you don't have the energy like women when they go to their monthly cycle. And you're allowed to not, for example, sit for exams. Because you are not as energetic and you're not as active as the rest of the month. So now you knowledge seekers, as you're learning more and you're becoming more tuned into the, what do you call it, the understanding of the plasma, you start talking and thinking very much in what is about to come. We change drastically. Don't forget, I keep on saying we are online for our 2014 roadmap. And
yeah, I was telling
the huge change.
The knowledge. I was telling the plasma group the other day that I've been listening and talking to you and everybody so long that my language is starting to change to everybody else's, and how I write is even changing.
That is dangerous. But in fact, as we go to space, the condition changes. We have to respond to it. If you understood what I just said a few minutes ago, that you can create you can put it this way: if you live by the ethos of the universe, thou shalt not steal. And at the same time, you take what you need, and you know you can take everything from the fields of the plasma of the reactors. Is there a need for the mouth? The mouth, we change to use it for eating and talking. When I can understand your emotion without you even before thinking you want to rob me or to give me a cuddle, do I need a mouth to shout or say I love you? If I can explain to you that I can change the taste and the smell just by the energy, is there a need for a digestion, a mouth to put things in it to digest it? We change according to the time comes. And don't forget, we are not the first one. It happens millions of times every single human day.
Mr. Kesh, is there a need for humans to travel in space, or is it just a wish?
Oh, you stay here. You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome to stay if you want to. Nobody takes you if you don't want to.
Are there jobs in space for humans that might be useful?
Mechanics. Yeah, we need mechanics.
Lots of broken down spaceships on foreign planets.
The only thing, dentists, the only thing we don't need is priests and rabbis, because there are no churches and no mosques.
Maybe that's why they're all on Earth then.
I think they will stay because it's only free pay, as I call it. It comes with accommodation and the pleasures. This is what I had few people here as, and I said this to you before. Americans with all their telescope, and we changed it, and we call, what do you call it, the big one? Hubble telescope. They haven't found a single church and they haven't found a single mosque in their space. So we joined the rest in understanding the balance of the use of the energy or gravitational magnetic fields of the universe. We are astonished here in the way of our own stupidity, but if we accept we've been so stupid, then we cannot blame nobody for it except ourselves. Don't forget, Alzheimer's is one of the best cures for the man in space, if you understand what it means. You want to forget the place you left behind. Very true. This is the reality of the existence. You know, at the moment it's become very fashionable. As I explained this to you before, you understood. I think the person and the family I'm talking about most probably listen to this program in the coming days or weeks, because I know she's very active around listening to work around the work of the foundation. It's become fashionable that the children travel to different nations for economical prosperity, and it's so good because the life they lived was not so comfortable, and they become successful. And one of the things of the success is we take our parents with us. They go back to their own nation and they bring the parents. And then after 5 or 10 years, all of them complain about things. I think my dad has got Alzheimer's. I think my mom has got Alzheimer's. Ask yourself one question. What have you done? It's so bad that you uproot them from where they lived, their love, their life was. And the only way to escape from it is to forget it. And then you call it Alzheimer's. So Alzheimer's will be the best cure for man in space. Armand is moving his feet, since I don't want to forget. Any other question?
There's a few questions in the live stream. One of them was a little bit further back, but it says, if walking creates a proper vibration transmitted to the bones, is running accelerating this process?
Pardon?
If walking creates the proper vibrations transmitted to the bones, is running accelerating the process?
I don't understand. If running?
Yeah, is running. So if walking does that, if you run, does it do it faster?
Not really, but
No.
in a way it clears the system. But do you know, I laugh at the people who run. For me, it's a joke. I see a lot of people going for a morning run. Fantastic, it's the best exercise. But have you seen where they run? Next to the motorways, next to the heavy roads, full of exhaust.
That's right, exactly. I see the same thing. If you want to take in heavy metals deep into your body, that's a great way to do it.
So, is it helping the bone to go, or is it helping to absorb more poisons in? But running has been part of our habit. One of the reasons we run, it goes back again to the operation of the heart. They say if you get your heart working for 5 or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, once or twice a week, with a heavy exercise or more rhythm exercise, it's good for you and for your heart. Understand the work of the bone, understand the work of the heart, then you understand what are the benefits in allowing the heart to run a bit faster for a while, every while. Because it literally sucks whatever is stuck in the bone structure much faster. It's nothing to do with, or partially, yes it does. But when you pump harder, you suck in more red blood cells, you clean up the system. You clean up the bone structure from if there is anything stuck in it. Or we call it lazy cells. Any other question?
There was one from Curl Lee, and it is there any bad guys in the universe?
Yes, called human beings. The man who comes here and puts arsenic and poison in the paper to kill a man, yes. To kill a child.
Well, believe it or not, they actually spray the forests here in Canada with poisonous not only pesticides, but the fertilizers are actually laced with heavy metals and poison from the petrochemical industry, the leftovers. And so that is where the paper comes from. It already has poisons in it, in a sense. Maybe you got a bad batch.
Country.
Maybe it got sent from maybe the paper got sent from Canada. Have you considered that at all?
Maybe they love me. You know that the Canadians love me. They send me everything. I like your maple leaf and maple syrup, but have you imagined what happens to your maple syrup if they're poisoning it this way?
I know it tastes different now than it has 20 years ago, for sure. My uncle has a large maple syrup forest, and I sampled his syrup for a long time, and I get the syrup from Quebec and Ontario, which is nearby provinces, and it's nowhere near as good. It's way more polluted, or it's now more acidic. The forests are turning acidic, and that changes the sap itself as well, and the syrup.
Yeah, but this is the part of the process of evolution. We change, we adapt to it. Any other question?
One more, which is from AUG on live stream, and that is the spaceship also a healing center? And I think we've answered that.
We do both. We kill you and we heal you. Depends on your intentions. You kill yourself if you are in the wrong place, wrong move. You. One of the things the man will find out in a space, he'll punish himself. And then after he punishes himself, he finds out, oh God, what did I do this to myself? So it starts correcting itself. At the beginning it'll be mayhem, but don't forget the space travel at the moment with a what I call a fairy tale of swinging like a feather weightlessness, it's a fantasy world at the moment. It's not the way the universe works. These kind of man will come very soon to understand how to be able to be good for himself, to benefit himself in a better way than actually needs to be done. It's when you create comfort, a lot of line of thinking will disappear. It's just that putting man in that condition. I always say, if you're going on a holiday, don't go for 2 weeks. If you go on a holiday, go for 4 weeks. Because the first week you're still getting stressed out. Second week you're getting stressed that the week is gonna have to go back to work after 2 weeks. But if you go for 4 weeks, it's a long time to go. You go back fresh and you work fresh. The space will be the same. You're going on a lifetime holiday. There are no factories, there are no washing dishes. There is nothing, it's just to enjoy the space and time and be helpful and serve the others. And I think the first experiment of this, the result of it, I was explaining to Arman just before we come up for this session. I said to him, find peace. Become at peace with yourself. Because we saw the performance of the reactors, not the end results, but the way it performed, the way it changed, the way it went on a halt. Because the end result is more or less the same. We looked at the process. During the Marcos time, you saw a good drop in the persistence, because Marco is always at peace. He's very inwardly and outwardly at peace. But Arman, as we say, an old say, I say, I laugh for you not to see my pains. He tries to control a lot of things. So it shows, it reflects his control on the reactor. So for two of them to work in harmony, to be able to carry on with the future test, which you'll be shocked when it comes open, a new type of systems are getting set up by them. We need the two to be at peace and in harmony with each other. I can't ask Marco to get angry again and just be nervous and stressed. I have to help Arman to reach Marco's level.
So that brings me to the next question, Mr. Keshe, which is there humans from Earth's future, or sorry, Earth's past in space?
Good morning. You think we have left you alone? I think I answered you.
Yes.
If man thinks they've been left alone and it's been there, and go back to what I said very, very earlier on in the talks, we will play the full life history of a man in front of the man to be ashamed of what they've done in the past and enjoy what others have done for them. You got to understand something very strange. A lot of people think they do behind hidden doors, closed doors, and nobody knows. And at the end opens up and they have to stand for it, and they don't know while they are doing wrong to the others, the wrong is getting done to them themselves, and they have to live with it. We have a history now, as we can speak about as of yesterday. Yesterday in the courts in Belgium, there is a case, a girl is born through whatever by the king, ex-king of Belgium, and now she's in England and she claims she's the daughter of the king. And she's a daughter of a banker, industrialist, very well known. And the man who raised the girl as a father, he could not believe that the wife has betrayed him in the marriage, and he's raised the child of another man. So, with his correctness and his pain, the industrialists gave a blood test for DNA to prove to himself and to the request of the daughter he loves so much that she's not her daughter, she's not his daughter. And DNA came positive. And this allowed the court in Belgium to look in the case now in different way, because now the girl claims to be the, what we call the bastard son of the daughter of the king. She's extremely talented, she's extremely beautiful, even though she's much older now. So what has happened? This process has shown a man who loves a child so much and brought her up from nothing, allows for himself to be judged out of the love of himself, and the test has come negative. So this is one of the reasons, as you know, the King of Belgium, ex-King of Belgium, have abdicated 2 years ago, that if this comes up, what's going to happen? And now, by December, the judge will pass an order. And he has to give a blood test. And as you know, in other parts of the program, that's why the Belgians poisoned me, and now I explained to you why I was falling asleep, because of the poison in the paper. While you do the same wrong thing happens to you. This is going to be shocking for a lot of people, and that's why the Belgians knew one day I'll release this information. What I'm going to tell you is not for the first time. The Belgians here knew for past 3 months what I know. As you know, one of the biggest supporters of the Keshe Foundation, we have released his name, is Wim de Grave. Go back on the IMAC, the company which planned all my death and all my problems. He is as one of the directors of what is called original directors of eCapital. Go on the email on the internet and find out. He has introduced people like Derek Lorescence to me. He paid for the first licenses of the what they call patent. He said, I pay for the patents because I want to be part of it. He found the same factories and laboratories for me to do the first test. But ask, why is he him? Because IMAC and eCapital are part of the investment of the House of the King. So the son is put to look after daddy's wealth in a hidden way. But you have to understand the way the life works. The same man he raised now supports a man who's going to end up his kingship. Because while he was playing away, making a girl who's asking and now had to be facing whatever test which is in the courts, their wife plays too. There is a huge secret which has been kept away from public. And now I tell you what the Belgians know and why they planned my death. Through DNA, if the king gives DNA, kings always have bastard children because they are there, and the most beautiful women in the world love to have a child from a king. But the queens play the same game. Go on the history of the Belgian present king. According to the Christian Catholic faith, children have godfathers. That if something happens to that, please look at who is the godfather of the next Queen of Belgium. Crown Prince Shah of Iran. The present Shah of Iran is the godfather to the Crown Prince, future Queen of Belgium. Now guess, by the Catholic process, you appoint your brother to be the godfather. Ask the question yourselves. Iran already has a king on the throne as a king of Belgium. I think I answered. Now you know why they plan our death and our killing. And this has to be clarified for the Iranians. And as I explained to you in a hidden way last time, Hitler went round killing the gays and the Jews because he came from the same. And now the same thing happened to the Iranians in Europe because trying to cover the track. So when the king gives the blood, ex-king has to give the blood too, to confirm this rumor is not correct. So, in fact, the Shah of Iran is enthroned in the Kingdom of Belgium. Now you know why the Belgians have been so busy. I think it's the right of the Iranians, as much as the king is giving the blood, the ex-king, the present king gives the blood too. Don't forget, the queen of the ex-queen of Belgium was the mistress of the Shah of Iran. Ex-Shah of Iran. And if you look in all the funerals and the weddings, Iranian royal family are always present. The ex-Iranian royal family. So, would it be a criminality in the space as much as is on earth? Tonight, a lot of people would not sleep in Belgium. You have a king, by allegations or by the truth, is an Iranian prince, Iranian king. And he's doing everything to damage the Iranians that his brother can come into power, the Crown Prince Shah of Iran. Now you know why they plan to kill us. They were hoping that this will never come out. Pass it on to CNN and let it pass on. They will not report it. In a way, the second Henri, the Prince Henri, should be the king. And in a way, ask the Belgians what is in Belgium in respect to the prince and the books and the papers which has been published in the past 3 years. His behavior, his sexual behavior, and his children. And then you find out a father who abuses other children would not have mercy on his own children, which are not his. Now you know why Belgium has put us on exile. Because they knew, we discussed this all the time in the house, because don't forget, Moses was brought up in the house of the king. Even though he had a dream and he killed all the men, all the children that nobody will take over, and he brought him in his own palace. Now I would like to ask, if the judge makes a decision on blood test to be given, it has to be both the father and son, and I hope it's the same. But when you do something to somebody, the same thing is done with you too. So you come to kill me, I open the books. Now it's time for you to clear. Is the present king of Belgium Iranian king, or is it a real Belgian king? And why a Muslim king should become the godfather of the Christian Catholic next king of Belgium? It's a big question to ask and to answer. I warned you, don't play. I strip you step by step, brick by brick. You poisoned the paper to kill me and my family. Now you have to answer to your nation. Is the present king of Belgium Iranian king and is on throne and is damaging all the Iranian assets and interest and the boycotts that millions of Iranians are paying for it just to protect himself and his brother? I say yes. I'm already on exile and they already tried to kill me 3 times. Now answer. Do we have a Shah of Iran on the throne of Belgian government? And if it is so, there is no monarchy in Belgium. When the King of Belgium and Queen of Belgium came to see me 2.5 years ago, and they planned my exile, where I was writing a book in a small cafe in the mountains of Belgium, they knew whether they were playing with the fire. I released their pictures when they were sitting and asked to sit and have a coffee with me. He didn't come there by accident to be in the mountain. He came to see the man he's going to kill, how he's going to squeak. And he asked his bodyguard, can we take a picture? Because he always takes a picture of his own victims, like the pedophiles do with their own children when they rape them. They enjoy it. So the thing goes back to the court of Belgium. You send people to kill scientists, their family, and their time. I told you I'd die when I decide, not you. Now you have to give the blood to prove that the king of Belgium is not Iranian king. While you were making other daughters, the others were playing with your daughters. Now, is there criminality in the space? Yes. People come in undercover to do criminal activities. We will not allow any more Belgians through the doors of this gate, that they don't come and poison us. Any other question? Give this tape to the CNN and to the news, world news. They won't broadcast it because they are paid by the paymasters of the same. Are there any other questions?
I think that should be it, right, Rick?
Thank you very
That
much.
seems to end it, yep.
We'll
Thank
talk
you,
later
Mr.
on.
Cash.
Thank you very much. Next week. Thank you indeed. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Cash.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, and that ends the 8th Cash